Get ready.
They say they need to ban the podcast equipment and take y'all mics away. And oftentimes when I listen, shit, I agree.
For real talk.
Hey man, just because we know people don't mean that they know things. A lot of us was in the same classes with some of these folks. That don't mean they were passing these classes.
All the time.
It ain't the world leaving you behind, man. It's your line of thinking. You think the science stopped evolving because you stopped learning, and it don't work that way. I couldn't imagine voting for somebody who thinks identifying with me is identifying with a felon. That's crazy as hell. I'm Mr. Spann, and I'm approving these messages. This is the Mr. Spann Official Podcast. Let's go. Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Mr. Spann Official Podcast. I'm your host, Mr. Spann, and this is episode number 52 of the show. And yo, man, it has been a long time since I talked to y'all, man. It was a hiatus that was not planned. It was a hiatus that was not, it was one of those things where it wasn't planned. It wasn't planned to be as long as it was, but goddamn if it wasn't needed, man. Real talk. If it wasn't needed, I would not have been gone away from the mic as long as I was. But it helped a nigga get some clarity, man. It helped me get some clarity as to like how I want to go forward and like some of the directions and how I want to do the show and some of the things that we're going to really be focusing on going forward and whatnot, man. Real talk. But I hate that I was away from you guys as long as I was. Real talk. There's been a lot of stuff that's been going on since the last time I hit the mic. And yo, I know some of you guys really want to hear me talk about some of that stuff, and we may get into some of that stuff in other episodes. But on tonight's episode, we're going to be focusing on the election. We're going to be focusing on the misinformation and disinformation. We're going to be focusing on like the importance of your participation in this election. We're going to be focusing on all of that other stuff, right? And then going forward, hey man, the podcast might not necessarily be as long as they used to be. Right? It's kind of got to be that way. And part of the reason why it's kind of have to be that way is because your man Spann has a demand in life, especially when it comes to the job. And sometimes the job requires me to be there 24 hours. Sometimes the job requires me to be there 12 hours. Sometimes the job requires me to be there 16 hours. And as much as I would prefer for this to be the job, the reality is the other job is what pays for this shit right here. So we got to kind of like move around what this other place kind of needs me to be, where they need me to be someplace, right? So going forward, man, what I really want to do is like, I want to like, yo, every episode, hey, we might just focus on one motherfucking thing. We might not talk about a whole hell of a lot of different things. We're going to focus on one thing, and we're going to get that one thing the attention it deserves, and then we're going to move forward. You might get a couple episodes during a week. You might get one episode during a week, but hopefully the way in which we can, we can try to do this and get this thing to be more consistent in the way in which it should fucking be, I gotta kind of like adjust how I do things here. So yeah, man, real talk. But it is good to be back here on this mic, man. It feels good. If I sound a little like a little raspy, I've been dealing with a little bit of a cold, the weather is changing or whatever else. And so I've been dealing with a little bit of a cold. Hopefully I don't hit you guys with like a coughing fit or anything else like that while we're doing the show, but it's bound to happen. It could happen, while we're doing the show. But like, yo, man, real talk. I'm just glad to be back here on this mic, man, and talking with you guys. And hopefully we can get some clarity about some things going on in the world with this podcast here, man, and going forward with this podcast here, man. But of course, before we get into everything, I got to remind you guys how to get in touch with us over here at the Mr. Spann Official Podcast and let your voice be heard, man. You can go ahead and hit us up at our hotline at area code 313-288-0485. That's area code 313-288-0485. Leave us those voicemail messages. Those messages will get played here live on the show, and they will get responded to here live on the show. And if you're watching us live here on Instagram, YouTube, or Facebook, hit me up. Call that line. Hit me up. You can talk to me while we're doing the show. That's area code 313-288-0485. Get your voice heard here that way, right? Also, hit us up at our email at feedback@thespannreport.com. That's feedback@thespannreport.com. Go ahead, leave us those emails. Of course, those emails will get read here and replied to here live on the show. We really appreciate you guys who reach out to us in that way, y'all. Also, I am no longer, let me repeat that, I am no longer on Twitter. Yeah, I gave up the Twitter account entirely. Right after Elon Musk was openly musing about why no one was trying to assassinate Kamala Harris or Joe Biden, I was like, yeah, that's it. I'm out. And so I am no longer on Twitter. So if you see anybody tweeting under the name Mr._Spann, that ain't me. It ain't your boy no more, man. I gave it up. I am on right now. I'm currently on Threads. I have a Blue Sky account, but I barely use that also. Primarily, if you want to chop it up with your man Spann on social media, I am on Threads. I am on Facebook under the Mr. Spann official fan page. But chop it up with your man Spann on Threads. That's Mr._Spann on Threads and Instagram. The X or Twitter account is no more. I gave that shit up, straight up. I'm not there anymore. So don't even bother with that one. But also on YouTube, if you want to check us out and you want to chop it up with us on YouTube, go ahead and hit up the Spann Report podcast page on YouTube. It's called the Spann Report on YouTube. So if you go on the Spann Report on YouTube, you can catch all of the shows. That's the beer and chicken stuff. That is the highly inappropriate stuff. That is the Baywatch stuff. Everything that is Spann Report related on YouTube is under the Spann Report podcast network page on YouTube. So go there, leave us some comments, vote in the polls when we decide to put those polls up on there as well. We really appreciate everybody who does that. Also, leave us a 5-star review on iTunes and or Stitcher Radio. Those 5-star reviews are the ones that get read here live on the show. We really appreciate everybody who does that. Doesn't cost you a dime, just a couple minutes of your time to let everybody know why you're rocking with us over here at the Mr. Spann Official Podcast and the Spann Report Podcast Network in its entirety, man. And 5 stars on iTunes, 5 stars on Spotify, man. We really appreciate that. Please help us out in that way, man. It helps the show grow. And if you're watching us on YouTube also, not only can you like the videos, but you can leave us comments there as well. And those comments will get read here on the show if they're pertinent to what we're talking about, right? Sometimes people get on there. YouTube tends to lend to trolls. But if you're talking about something pertinent, we will highlight your comment and we will talk about those comments here live on the show, man. Real talk. We appreciate everybody who does that. And also, if you want to buy yourself some merch and support the show monetarily, we do have a store on TeePublic. That's tpublic.com/the Spann Report. You can go there, buy yourself some merch, man. Get yourself a t-shirt, get yourself a hoodie. It's getting cold outside, y'all. Get yourself a hoodie or a sweater. Get yourself a coffee mug or something like that, man. It's a small way, but you help the show grow. But also, man, it really goes a long way into helping us pay for this that we do here to keep you guys entertained and to keep you guys informed and everything else, man. So we really appreciate everybody who contributes and who lends their voice to this podcast universe in that way, man. Thank you so much for all of the support you guys have been giving me over the years and the support that you would hopefully give me in the future, man. Real talk. But man, like I said, it's been a while since the last time we went on the show, man. Like, I think the last time I talked to y'all, man, my uncle Orlando passed away. And, I was dealing with that. And then there was we've had some weather emergencies here in the utility industry where I work. And so I was doing 24-hour shifts. I was pulling 16-hour shifts. It's been a busy time for your man Spann. And so it's really kind of pulled me away from not even just like the podcast, but just being able to pay attention to what was going on in the world, right? And so one of the things I pride myself on is when I do get on this microphone that I'm talking about something that I actually have an idea what I'm talking about. I never want to get on this mic and feel as though I'm winging it and I don't know what the fuck it is I'm talking about. Never will I get on this microphone and do that to you guys. You guys, even of course you're not paying for this, but you deserve to hear from somebody who's trying to at least know what the fuck it is they're talking about, right? And so I do pride myself on that. But hopefully with the way in which I'm going to try to do this going forward, the hiatuses won't be nearly as frequent or as long as they have been. So thank you again for you guys who are tuning in tonight. Shout out to my man Adam Cook. Adam says, good evening, Mrs. Spann. Well, thank you so much, brother. Thank you so much. I appreciate you being in here, man. Real talk. Thank you so much. But man, so one of the reasons why not even so much one of the reasons why, the election is weighing heavy on your boy. It is weighing heavy on your boy, and one of the reasons why is weighing heavy on me is because of how I'm interacting with the world and also how I'm looking at some of the information coming my way. And I'm not going to lie to you guys. I'm a little bit worried about some of the things that I'm seeing, right? And it could be, it could be a symptom of the machine and how the machine is like, they're constantly wanting us to be afraid. It could be the media and how they're constantly wanting us totally on edge. It could be a bit of that, but also could be some of how I'm interacting with the world outside of social media and how I'm interacting with the world outside of, the media consumption that I'm taking in, right? And so, as you guys know, I've been a Kamala Harris supporter since 2020. I didn't get a chance to vote for Kamala Harris in the primaries back in 2020. She was already out of the race by the time I wanted to vote for her back then, right? And now we get an opportunity to vote for her as president of the United States. And so at this particular juncture, though, I'm noticing a bunch of misinformation and a bunch of disinformation and how that's affecting not only just like strangers, but also like the people that I know, some people that I know and people that I deal with on a day-to-day basis, right? And it's been interesting because in the time that I've been away, there have been I've had to I call this show a reckoning because there are people that I've known for quite some time, whom I've had to disassociate myself from, and it's mostly because of the way that my principles are set up. I made a statement on Facebook a couple of weeks ago, or probably about a month ago, that I don't have any friends that are Trump supporters. And if you are a Trump supporter, then damn it, we ain't friends. And I know some people will look at that and say, well, man, damn, man, you gonna throw away relationships and just because y'all disagree politically. And like, truthfully speaking, there was a time where I would have thought that was foolish, but I don't think today is one of those times, man. I think because of the stakes in which we are, the stakes of what, like everything that we have to deal with right now, I don't have time for, nor do I have the patience for anybody who would entertain this level of fascism and racism and bigotry and act as though I'm just supposed to look past it. I no longer have the patience for that level of ignorance and or willful fucking willful, just like a willful disregarding. That's the word that I'm looking for. A willful disregarding of everything that Trump has been representing over the course of the last few years, right? And so, I had to draw that line in the sand, and unfortunately, it cost me a few relationships. I wouldn't necessarily say that I'm sad about it. I'll take that back. To some degree, I am sad about it, but it isn't as if these people have not been warned that this is where I was for quite some time. And I think at a certain point, sometimes fat meat has to be greasy. Sometimes, fish grease has to be hot. And, unless a person gets popped by that fish grease, maybe they aren't necessarily being, they're not recognizing that, nah, this motherfucker really means that shit. And oftentimes I think we have a bunch of friends who think it's all fun and games, not knowing that like everything about this is real to me. Right. And so we're going to talk a little bit, like I said, about the misinformation and disinformation and how that is affecting why so many people that we may know and love are still, for whatever reason, fucking around and thinking that a Trump presidency going forward could be a viable option for them, but also how that puts the rest of us in peril. Right. So one of the things I was thinking about, and this kind of brings me to this. I'm gonna pull this up so you guys can see this here, because it ties in. I'm gonna bring this into, but it ties in, right? So I'm gonna add this here. So for those of you who are not watching, I'm sorry, but for those of you who will be listening to this later on, there's this picture, right? And I saw this in a group that I'm in on Facebook. It's I was in the I'm from Detroit group on Facebook, right? And there's this picture that someone posted in the group, and they said it's a picture of your parents going to school. They were telling you the truth, right? Now, I'm 44 years old, right? I've been through a few snowstorms, man. I'm from, not only am I 44 years old, I'm 44 years old, and I grew up in both Chicago and Detroit simultaneously. So I know snowstorms, okay? I know snowstorms. I have been in school where we had to walk through snowstorms, but I am also old enough to remember where, hey, we did not go to fucking school when there was a snowstorm, okay? I'm old enough to remember both of those things. So someone posted this in the group, and they were like, yo, they're telling you the truth. Now, I'm the unk that will tell the kids the truth. I'm like, yo, man, your mom and daddy lying about that. We didn't go to school in fucking 5 feet of snow, right? We didn't do that. Maybe my grandparents did. Maybe my parents did. But if you, like, and even now, like, I'm at an age now where, like, some of my fucking contemporaries are grandparents now. I'm not looking forward to being pop yet, but some of my contemporaries are grandparents now. And so they are now furthering this fucking notion that we've been walking to school in fucking 5 feet of snow and everything else, right? And I'm like, nah. We didn't do that. That's some bullshit. They lying to y'all, right? But they always, like, so this picture has been circulating around the internet for a few months now, right? It's cute. It's also an AI generated photo. Now, this picture is of a young boy. He looks like he's wearing a shearling coat with like a little, fur outline or a fleece outline, inner lining or whatever. There's a pile of snow behind him. There are people walking in the snow. There's a school bus behind him and everything else, right? Now, in the group, I was telling folks, I said, hey, listen, guys, this picture isn't real. This isn't actually a thing. And I had folks at my neck in this group about this picture, right? And they were like, how the fuck you gonna tell me that this picture ain't real? I lived through it. I saw that shit. I had to walk through all the yada, 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 right? They had to walk through all the snow. They saw it and everything else. And I said, hey, listen, I hear you. You may have went through a snowstorm, just not this snowstorm, because this snowstorm isn't real. And so now I got people telling me that this picture, I've got people coming at me saying that this picture is years old. Years old. They remember that when this picture was taken, right? I remember when this picture was taken, nigga. How the fuck you gonna tell me? Yada, yada, yada. Now, I want y'all to remember, I want y'all, for those of you who are watching this show right now, take a look at that school bus right there, right? Take a look at it. Take a real good look at it. And I want you to take note of where the door is for you to board the bus on that school bus. And the question that I have for you is, when have you ever boarded a school bus? Or better yet, any city bus? When have you ever boarded a bus where the doors were on the street side and not the curb side? You've never done that. You've never done it. Because they've always been on the curb side of the street, right? We live in America. The driver's side is usually on the left side of the vehicle, and then you would get on the right-hand side of the school bus, right? That's typically how you board a school bus. When have you ever been able to look at a sign on a school bus, or any bus for that matter, and not actually be able to read the numbers or the words or anything on that time. The sign is illegible. You can't read anything off of this fucking picture. So the point that I was making was, listen, although you may have been through a school blizzard or whatever, you may have went through school through a blizzard at some point as a youngin', probably in like the late 70s, maybe early 80s, going into the 60s or whatever. However, this was some bullshit. This right here ain't real. And it was interesting to me how, as I was explaining to people and I was pointing out, like, this is an AI image. This image is not real. You are looking at something that a computer generated because someone put a prompt into a computer and it spit this image out. I can do that shit from my phone now. I got a Google Pixel 9 Pro XL. I can make AI images straight from my phone. I can delete people straight out of a picture from my phone. I can add myself to a group photo from my phone, despite the fact that I wasn't in the photo to begin with. I can do all of that shit from my phone, right? We are living in an AI age. And I had people in this group swearing up and down that they remember this image. They remember this image from years ago, despite the fact that this image is only a few months old. And so I'm trying to explain this to people in this group. And it's hard to explain something to some people when they're not necessarily open to learning some shit, right? And so one of the things that I noticed was, like, there were so many people who were talking about how they remember when this happened. I remember when this happened. I remember when this picture was taken. And what that made me think of was the Mandela effect, right? Now, the Mandela effect, for those of you who may not necessarily be familiar with what that is, the Mandela effect is essentially a large group of people who have a false memory of an event or a thing, right? And it spawned from people who thought at some point in time that Nelson Mandela, while he was in a South African prison, that he had passed away while he was in that prison, right? There's another example of that. I know there's been pictures of what was that? Supposedly, what's that? The comedian Sinbad showing up in a movie called Shazam, right? People remember that, Sinbad was in a movie named Shazam or whatever, despite the fact that that never actually happened, right? And so, like, the Mandela effect is sort of a thing. It's like, you have a large group of people who don't know each other, who remember this thing, despite the fact that this thing actually never happened. And so here is another example of this AI image being used and people connecting that with the memory that they do have, but now they're connecting this picture with that memory. And now this is another example of the Mandela effect, where they're taking this and using this as like, you cannot tell me this didn't happen. I remember when this happened, right? Despite the fact that this is a computer-generated image, only a few months old. And the reason why this is important to talk about now, especially considering everything that we're going to be talking about later, is because the Mandela effect tends to can have an effect on how people think about things politically, right? And if they can get you, if you can be completely fooled that you remember when this picture was taken, despite the fact that this picture was only a few months old, you are relating this back to some memory back in the 80s, some memory back in the 70s, some memory back in the 90s. If you're remembering this particular image from that, or some memory that you have from years ago, if you are linking that with something that happened to you years ago, then as much as this is like kind of harmless, just kind of think about how this particular technology and how this particular phenomena can be used to have you thinking and believing a thing that didn't actually happen. Right? And how that can be used for more nefarious reasons. Right? For more nefarious reasons. Politically and otherwise. Right? So, yeah, man, I'm going to start there because this Mandela effect is affecting our politics at this very moment. It really is. It really is. And so one of the things that, one of the reasons why I believe that this Mandela effect is affecting us in this very moment is, well, not necessarily the Mandela effect, right? But, misinformation and disinformation, because AI images can be used for misinformation and disinformation. It's even more effective if you connect with it on a personal level, which is what that first image did for a lot of folks. It connected them in a very personal level, right? However, misinformation and disinformation has been permeating our social media space for some time now, for almost a decade now. And it's like a fire hose where, like, say for instance, if you're someone who is tasked with trying to debunk misinformation and disinformation, it's like drinking from a fire hose in the sense that, like, you might catch some of it, you ain't gonna catch all of it. The fire hose is way too motherfucking powerful, and your mouth ain't but so big, right? So you might get a little bit. Not all of it. And the rest of it is going out to the masses. And they're taking this shit in. And some of them may be discerning. A lot of them ain't. But you only catching but so much. Right? And so one of the reasons why I think it's important that we talk about this, this particular thing tonight, is because there's a lot of misinformation and disinformation being, especially right now, concerning these hurricanes that have been coming through the last couple of weeks with Hurricane Milton and Hurricane Helene. Right. So what we've been hearing, especially coming from the Republican side, is that one of the things we've been hearing on the Republican side has been that the Republicans have been putting out, which is Donald Trump and his running mate, the JD Vance, Junior Varsity Vance, have been putting out, is that, like, the Biden administration has been very slow with their response to Hurricane Helene, and they're very slow with their response to Hurricane, was that Milton, I believe the last one was. Unfortunately for them, a bunch of Republicans have been coming out to state that that's not necessarily true. And so let me do I have a video of this? I don't have a video of the Republicans talking against this. But here's what I do have. So there was someone called into a show, I believe it was a Dan Abrams show, and they talked about this on MSNBC. And I know you could take MSNBC for a grain of salt, especially if you're somebody who's center right or right wing leaning and everything else. However, the caller made a point to say that his father-in-law, who was affected by the hurricane, refused help from FEMA because he believed that FEMA would take his house if he accepted any assistance from them. And the reason why he believed this is because he got this information from Donald Trump.
I'll be a monkey's bare-assed uncle.
So let me pull this video up so you guys can watch right along with me here. Let me do this here. Let me let's see. Let's exit that. And I'm gonna pull this up for a screen share just a second while I get this together. So and I got this. Okay. So that at that time. Okay. So let me pull this up, add this to the screen here so you guys can watch right along with your boy.
Meanwhile, Republican.
Hold on just a second while I get it at my time stamp. So we talking about the shit that's important. And let's see what the hell they're talking about here with this guy calling in, talking about his dad or his father-in-law. Check this out, y'all.
He called into the Dan Abrams show on Sirius XM saying his father-in-law in Asheville only believes the former president, and it is actually breaking up our family.
My father-in-law lives just outside of Asheville, North Carolina, and he was badly damaged by Hurricane Helene. And he has refused all FEMA help because he's a hardcore Trumper. And he literally believes that if he accepts anything from FEMA, they're going to take his house. I don't understand how so many people are under the spell of this freaking con man. I don't understand it.
Well, it's absolutely heartbreaking about your father-in-law. I'm so sorry to hear it. I hope.
Man, it's hard to even imagine it. I mean, he lost almost everything, and he's refusing all help from the federal government and complaining to us that he doesn't have food, that he doesn't have the stuff he needs, and yet he won't accept the help. What the hell are we supposed to do? We're not in a position to be able to fly across the country and help him. Yeah. There's people begging us to get him to accept help, and he won't do it.
Wow.
I guarantee you, I'm not the only one. I guarantee you, I'm not the only one.
I wish there was something I could say as to, I don't know. Does he have access to any electronics where you could send him some information debunking this, and that he might?
We've done all of that. We've sent him all the FEMA bulletins. We've sent him all the stuff from the fact checkers. He doesn't believe it. He thinks he just believes Trump. Literally, Dan, it's a cult. He's a cult member. I'm sorry to say it. He's a cult member. And he's my father-in-law, and it sucks.
Yeah. So, as we know, over the course of the last couple of weeks, Donald Trump has been going around saying that, the president of the United States, Joe Biden, hasn't been responsive to Republican areas, that Donald Trump hasn't been responding to some of the local political officials, if they're part of the opposing political party, whether that be the governor of Georgia, whether that be the governor of Florida, whether that be areas in which there were a bunch of Republican voters. Donald Trump is out here telling his people that the Biden administration isn't doing anything to help them. And unfortunately, that is leaving people who are in the position of needing help, refusing help because they don't believe it's available to them without a catch. And then there's also people who don't believe that the Biden administration is helping them because they have reasons for helping others who aren't Americans, right? And the reason why I say that is because there was also a call that came into another national radio show. Let me pull this down here. There was another call that came down. This was from, this happened on The Breakfast Club, right? So The Breakfast Club had someone call into their show, and it was interesting because I kept seeing people post this thing on Facebook, man. They're like, you could hear the heartbreak in his voice and all these other things, right? I'm like, the fuck are y'all talking about? Like comments in the, video in the comments and all this other shit, right? And so finally I saw this, and again, this is another victim of misinformation and disinformation. So let me pull this up so you guys can see this as well while we talk about this. Check this out, you guys.
Yo, man, this Tone from Tampa, man.
Tone from Tampa. What's up, brother? How was everything out there?
It's a little light rain right now, heavy wind, but I'm going to just keep it a buck, man. This ain't where it's at, man.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Yeah, I'm gonna say y'all right in the middle of it. The eyes hitting Tampa from what the map shows right now.
Man, bro, my heart, bro, is in my ass, bro. I'm scared, man. And then we still recovering from Helene, and it's like, bro, I want to get this off my chest, bro. This government is playing in our faces, man. It don't matter if it's Republican or Democrat. They playing in our faces, bro. You get Ukrainians come over here, they get what they want. You get immigrants come over here, they get what they want. And you got people being denied these FEMA applications that you talking about the other day, Charlamagne.
Mm-hmm. Now, that goes back into some things I said a while ago. We talked about this a few months ago. Y'all remember when, I can't remember exactly what episode it was, but there was an episode where I talked about the alleged Venezuelan lady with the food stamp that supposedly had $14,000 in food stamps, and how that was being used in order to turn people against the idea of helping migrants in any sort of way, because they thought the migrants were getting some help that, natural born American citizens should be getting, right? And so that was a way of othering these people, despite the fact that, one, that wasn't true, and then two, these folks aren't necessarily getting the amount of help that y'all believe that they are getting. There's amount of disinformation being spread out to make it where you are looking at someone who has less than you, and whatever they are getting, you are looking at them mad as shit. Meanwhile, these other motherfuckers who are robbing the both of y'all get away scot-free, right? So you're looking at the person who has less than you as if that person who has less than you is your problem, when the person who has more than you and is seeking to keep you down is your problem, but you're not even focused on them because you're focused on the person who has less, right? We talked about this a few months ago. It's probably I want to say maybe episode 50 or 49 or something like that. We talked about this. And it was interesting to me to see how that came back into the hurricane response, because this brother right now is leaning into, they giving all this help to the migrants. They're giving all this help to Ukraine, but we can't get no help down here. Right? Their applications are being denied. Now, the other part about this is that I want to know, and I'm not, again, I don't want to trivialize or any kind of way minimize this brother's pain and what he was going through, especially dealing with a hurricane. But at the same time, how many people does he know whose FEMA applications were denied? Do we have anything to back that up? How many people didn't get the assistance that they were requesting from the federal government? We need to know that sort of thing before we just, because he said so and he's going through the thick of it, and trust me and believe me, I sympathize with this brother for what he's going through. But also, I'm hearing misinformation and disinformation in his shit, even in this short time that we've been talking. Even in the short time that he was talking on this radio. But I'm gonna play a little bit more of this.
He's being denied, bro. But you getting these migrants coming over here, $10,000 food stamps, bro.
Listen, again, he said $10,000 in food stamps for migrants. We don't know that to be true. We don't know that to be true. That is an internet meme. We do not know that to be true. Misinformation and disinformation affecting us in every day.
Goddamn $5,000 cash stipends, man. This shit hurting, bro. We finna get ready to damn near die, bro. A lot of people couldn't afford to evacuate, and this government planning our face, man.
Damn.
I feel for you, bro.
I totally understand, my brother.
Absolutely.
It don't matter what they is, Democrat, Republican, they all treason, man. They all about money, bro. None of these people care about American people, bro. This hurt, bro. This hurt, bro. People.
It hurts even more. This is the part that hurts me. It hurts even more when you know that this brother's being fed a lot of misinformation and disinformation, and like he's calling into a national radio show to express his frustration with what he's going through, and neither DJ Envy or Charlamagne the God are actually, I know that they're trying to be a sympathetic ear, but at the same time, they're allowing for the misinformation and disinformation to continue on their airways. That hurts. That hurts too.
Wake up every day, just want to live their life, bro. And you got these greedy snakes, man. You got these greedy snakes call themselves government service people, bro. And they don't give a damn, bro. They don't give a damn about the migrants coming over here. They using them too, man. It's right, man.
You're absolutely right, my
Damn,
brother.
I can't wait to come back, man.
And then to have someone like a Charlamagne the God get on the national radio show and tell this guy he's absolutely right. He's not absolutely right. he is being fed misinformation and disinformation, and you are confirming his misinformation and disinformation to millions of fucking of listeners. And you know, this is one of the reasons why I've always been somewhat critical of I've been critical of how Charlemagne the God has been lately positioned as someone that we should be listening to politically, when he can hear that and not know that there's misinformation and disinformation being disseminated amongst his call, and rather than just say, hey, like, brother, I hear you and everything else, is you're absolutely right. No, he's not. It's unfortunate, but he's not. He's not absolutely right. He's going through some shit and we all sympathize, but he's not absolutely right.
I mean, to hear what he said you can't wait till God come back. He's absolutely 100% right. Because at some point, I don't know who else can help a lot of people other than the Most High.
Well, we're praying for you, brother.
Thank y'all, man.
Try to stay as safe as possible, brother.
Man.
And if you're in Tampa, man, listen, y'all, Town and Country, West Tampa, Apollo Beach, Gibson, Davis Island, St. Pete, Clearwater, man, y'all get out the way, man. Get out the way. Go north, man. I don't care if you got to go to a high school, elementary, whatever, man. Get out the way, please.
All right,
y'all be blessed, man.
Yeah, do what you can to stay safe, brother. And you know, when it's all said and done, we're going to see what we can do to help relief down there, man.
Absolutely.
But I want people to hear exactly how people on the ground feel.
Yeah, that got me.
I hear exactly how people on the ground feel, but at the same motherfucking time, we can't allow for the misinformation and disinformation to permeate unchallenged in the way in which Charlemagne allowed for the misinformation and disinformation to permeate. So yeah, they may be feeling like that on the ground, but as also a result of them not knowing the real information. We're allowing them to move around and move in the world with a lot of phony shit. And that's a problem. That is a motherfucking problem.
I almost cried.
That's everyday working class people on the.
And I'm an everyday working class motherfucker. Let me also make that clear. I work in the city every fucking day. I am a blue collar worker. I am a fucking pipe fitter. Okay? I am a union pipe fitter. I am a working class nigga. I'm in the city every day. I'm amongst the folk every day. That does not give us an excuse to not fucking know. And it does not also give us an excuse when we hear and see misinformation to just gloss over the shit as if we didn't see and hear the misinformation and disinformation and just let that shit slide as if it was supposed to be, as if that's just supposed to be what it is. Because it's not. And it's hurting so many of us. It's hurting so many of us.
The ground. You can't lie to them.
But that's how he feels.
They're already lying to them. They are repeating the lies, bro. They are repeating the lies. They can't lie to them. They are repeating the lies. And part of the reason why they're repeating the lies because y'all don't challenge them. They listen to people like Charlemagne and DJ Energy for whatever reason. They listen to these folks. They are repeating the lies. You can't lie to them if no one is telling them. Or if not only just telling them, but hey, man, scrutinizing the shit that they say and scrutinizing the people who are sending them these messages. If you're not doing that, then the lies persist. And the lies persist, man.
That's what people have been saying for the longest.
It sounds like he's preparing to possibly not make it.
That man don't want to hear about no statistics. He don't want to hear about no data. He don't want to hear about none of that. He is on the ground, 10 toes down, real life experience. That's what politicians don't want you to see. Those are the people politicians not talking to.
Now, those are the people that they need to talk to. And you see how he feels. He feels like, look, I live here. I work here. I pay my taxes here, and there is no help.
And he don't care about no Democrat. He don't care about no Republican. He don't care about no Trump. He don't care about no Vice President Kamala Harris. All he care about is surviving.
Him and his family.
Who's going to help him survive?
That's right.
And as of now, nobody has.
Yo, man.
You know who will help him survive? Those who will give him the proper information. Those who will lead him to the people who are actually trying to help him. Not those who will tell him that the help isn't coming. Not those who will tell him that the help isn't coming because the current administration is not sending the help because your governor is a Republican. Not those who will tell him that the help isn't coming, or better yet, if you accept the help, then they go take your house. Those are the people you don't want to be listening to. This is why I look at people like this motherfucker right here, Charlemagne, as an agent of misinformation and disinformation. Like, I get it. There are people hurting, but let's get the people the right motherfucking information. Whether he cares about Republican or Democrat or whatever, I don't give a fuck either. But when it comes to right and wrong, when it comes to misinformation, disinformation, and the correct information, get the motherfucking people the correct information. This is where there's a dereliction of duty when it comes to motherfuckers like this here. This is a dereliction of duty. Whether he gives a fuck about Kamala Harris or Donald Trump or whatever, your man's was misinformed. And all you did was tell him, yeah, you're absolutely right. Knowing, because I know this motherfucker knows, knowing he was wrong. He's dealing with some shit, and he's also dealing with a bunch of false information. That's wrong. That's fucking wrong. So that's one thing. It's one thing we got going on. We got another comment here. We get this from Adam Cook. Adam says, COVID vaccine redux. The fact is this: Democrats control the weather. Things even got currency is a testament as to how bad the information space has got. Listen, when you got motherfuckers like Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene saying that that Democrats control whether or not the hurricanes are going to Republican-controlled districts and Democratic control district. This is the same lady who also told you that Jewish space lasers were responsible for the wildfires in California and all these other things. Like, these people are not serious people. They are not serious people. And so, even though we may have gone to class with a lot of these people, we think that these people may have been smart because we went to the same class. We don't know if they actually passed the classes that we was going to. We don't know, man. Some of these people that we went to school with, they might have failed those classes, man. Some of them might not even got their high school diploma. We know some of them didn't get they did not get the diploma. They might have got the GED and was like, I ain't even take the motherfucking civics parts of the GED test. Right? But the fact that this went over the airways and I saw so many people on social media, you could hear the pain in his voice and they ready to cry and all of these things. And I heard the pain in his voice and I sympathize. But at the same time, I'm like, he got so much bad information. So much bad information. And the fact that Charlemagne and DJ Envy, neither one of these motherfuckers were in a position to tell him, hey, brother, I hear you, but here's where you can go for help. Here's what we going to put you in a position to where we can get you in contact with some folks that can help your situation. They did not do that. They did not do that. And for that, fuck them. Fuck them, bro. Fuck them. Real talk. So you got that going on. Now, another thing that I kind of wanted to talk about, man. So Obama has recently been campaigning for Kamala Harris over the course of the last couple days or so. I believe he's about to go on like a bit of a campaign blitz for her. And Obama spoke to the fact that there's quite a few brothers who are not necessarily enthusiastic about the prospect of voting for Kamala Harris for president, right? Now, I've seen people talk about the fact that they don't think that Obama's kind of impromptu, kind of in front of the camera speech was appropriate. They think that he may have been a bit misguided. Some folks are talking about like, hey man, black men don't need they don't need anybody preaching to them. Black men have their reasoning for not voting for Kamala Harris, or not necessarily being enthusiastic about voting for Kamala Harris. All these different things, right? And even Roland Martin, and Roland Martin is someone who I have a high level of respect for. Roland Martin used to work at my family's radio station in Chicago at WVON, right? He used to have a show there, and like I really do look. I bought his book, White Fear. White Fear. I bought that book. I watch his show religiously. I like Roland Martin. I disagree with Roland Martin here in his critique of Barack Obama and how Barack Obama was coming at some of the brothers. And part of the reason why I disagree is because I think that although I think Roland Martin was coming at Barack Obama from a numbers perspective, I think that we all know, right? I think we all know some brothers who talk, who express themselves in a way in which we aren't necessarily, that isn't necessarily as supportive of the idea of having Kamala Harris as president, right? And I think that's what Barack Obama was speaking to, but I think people like Roland Martin was speaking to the numbers, right? He was speaking to numbers, right? And so one of the things that that made me think about this was there was an instance on the Clay Kane show. Clay Kane has a show on Sirius XM where oftentimes he'll have Reese Colbert, who I'm also a very big fan of. I gotta get Reese Colbert to follow me on Threads the way she was following me on Twitter, because I ain't on Twitter no more. She was following me on motherfucking Twitter though. Come on, baby, come on over to Threads, because that's where your boy is at. However, Reese Colbert had to go off on a dude because of how he came at Kamala Harris on Sirius XM. And I'm going to play a bit of this for you guys here on the show so you guys can see exactly the type of brothers that I believe Barack Obama was speaking about and speaking to. Okay? So check this out. I'm going to pull this up so you guys can watch right along with your man Spann. Let me add this here. And let's see what the hell Reese Colbert is talking about. She went off.
James from Cali. What's up, James?
Hey, I've been hearing this. I just wanted to see if you knew for sure. Did 29-year-old Kamala Harris sleep?
And James sounds like a dude. He sounds like a brother. This James sound like a brother. He don't sound like white James. He don't sound like James from Wisconsin, Green Bay, and nothing like that. James sound like James from motherfucking, I don't know, Figueroa somewhere in L.A. or some shit like that. Real talk. That's what James sound like to me. It sound like a brother on this motherfucking phone.
With 60-year-old Willie Brown, and did he start her career?
Why are you coochie faxing a 59-year-old woman? Who did you sleep with 30 years ago? And did they start your career?
Can you fact check that?
No, I asked you a question. Who were you sleeping with 30 years ago? Do you know who you slept with 30 years ago?
Well, I'm not a politician, so I'm not running for president.
But you asking about somebody's coochie. So let's run your dick facts. Who did you sleep with 30 years ago? Why is that since it's your business who she slept with, then that's our business now. Since you didn't call into a international radio show, who did you sleep with 30 years ago? Do you remember?
You a hoe I ain't voting
for. And you a clown. You a stupid, goofy ass clown. That's the dumbest shit. You should be fucking embarrassed to call into a national radio show running a 30-year-old coochie fax. What the fuck does that have to do with the goddamn price of tea in China? You are goofy. This is the dumbest shit I ever heard in my whole life. Shit. You ain't said shit about motherfucking gas prices, grocery prices, climate change. It's a whole motherfucking hurricane in this country. People running for cover. And you talk about somebody fucked maybe, possibly, potentially 30 years ago? That don't sound goofy to you? Grow up. Grow up. Maybe you need to get you some coochie. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe you ain't got none, and that's why you worried about who the hell she was potentially or not sleeping with 30 years ago. That's embarrassing.
I love Reese Colbert, man. She be giving them the motherfucking business, man. I fucking love Reese Colbert. She don't hold no fucking punches at all, man.
That's disgraceful that you called him with that stupid ass question. Like we ain't got more pressing shit in the world to motherfucking worry about. Are you serious? Goofy. Talking about somebody a motherfucking hoe, but you're gonna vote for a man who has motherfucking been convicted of 34 felonies because he slept with a porn star while his wife is pregnant and lied about it financially and engaged in financial fraud. So you voting for a fraudulent hoe. How about that? A convicted felony fraudulent hoe. And you talking about what she may or may not have done 30 motherfucking years ago. You should be embarrassed, but you're probably not. Goofy James in California. That's even where the fuck you from.
Reese was tired. Like she was hot. Reese was hot. But like I said before, although Roland might have been talking about, the numbers and everything else, I think we all know someone like a James who may be in our family and may not necessarily be in our family. We might work with somebody like a James. We might come across somebody like a James and like at the barbershop or anything else, right? But these brothers are out here. James is out here talking about, I'm not voting for Kamala Harris because Kamala Harris is a hoe because her career was started because she dated somebody named Willie Brown back in the day. Right? Now, that doesn't, like Willie Brown doesn't get her the votes to become district attorney. Willie Brown doesn't get her the votes to become attorney general for the entire fucking state of California. Willie Brown doesn't get her the votes to become the senator for the entire fucking state of California. Willie Brown has no motherfucking bearing on Joe Biden picking her to be vice president of the United States. And yet, someone like a James in California will somehow make Kamala Harris's romantic connection to a Willie Brown a demerit against her in his choice to vote for president of the United States in 2024. So although I largely agree with Roland Martin on most things, I think Barack Obama was speaking to a quite real reality of how some brothers think about the prospect of voting for a woman, a black woman at that, to be president of the United States, right? So I'm going to take this down. Let me do this here. Yeah, I'm going to take this down. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to play exactly what Barack Obama actually said during this campaign stop that actually prompted so many black people to have an issue with what Barack Obama even had to say about brothers and their reticence, or some brothers, I'll say that, some brothers in their reticence to vote for Kamala Harris. So let me pull this up so you guys can watch right along with your man Spann. Let's see what they're talking about here on CBS.
Right now, we want to turn to the upcoming election. Former President Barack Obama spent yesterday on the campaign
disregard
Harris over Donald Trump.
And on the other side, you have someone who has consistently shown disregard, not just for the communities, but for you as a person. And you're thinking about sitting down, and you're coming up with all kinds of reasons and excuses. I've got a problem with that.
CBS News campaign reporter Torian Small.
I've got a problem with that. All the reasons and excuses. And then I'm listening to some people that I went to high school with. People whose lives I know how they're living right now. And I'm listening to you talk about you're considering seriously Donald Trump as president of the United States. Right? I don't have an issue with Barack Obama feeling as though he's in community. Here's the other part that I think is real weird. Let me pull this down, though. Here's the other part that I think is real weird. Like, yo, has Barack Obama not earned the right to talk to us and feel as though like he's in community with us, where he can talk with us candidly? He can't do that? Barack Obama, the former fucking president of the United States, the only black president of the United States, can't speak to black men and speak to us candidly about how he's seeing what's happening politically? That's a bit odd to me. Now, I will say this. I don't speak for all black men in the same way that Barack Obama doesn't speak for all black men, in the same way that Roland Martin doesn't speak for all black men, in the same way that Farrakhan doesn't speak for all black men. However, I do think that Barack Obama has earned the right to be able to talk to black men in a very frank way and say things in how he sees how this thing is going. I think he's earned that right. I think he has. I don't have any problem with what Barack Obama was saying, only because I see on the ground, on the level where I'm at, where I see some of the same ignorant shit being repeated by a bunch of brothers. Now, these brothers aren't necessarily indicative of all the brothers, but it's enough of them. It's enough of them where I'm concerned about like my circle and like the people that I interact with. Not saying my circle talks like this, but when I'm out in the public and I'm hearing dudes talk, I'm hearing some of the same shit, some of the same level of misogyny is being leveled. Some of the same level of misinformation is being leveled. Some of the same level of disinformation is being leveled. Right? But it's not just my circle and the people that I'm around. This sort of stuff seeps into the zeitgeist. It seeps into the social media. It seeps into the discourse on on Facebook, on Twitter, on Threads, on Blue Sky. All of this shit. It's on YouTube. And here's an example. Let me pull this down. Let me pull this down. I'm sorry. Let me do this here. Let me pull this down because there's another video that I do want to show you guys. And this is something that I saw recently. This is a very popular podcast. It's on YouTube. It's probably on your podcast app. I don't know. Some of these niggas don't know they need to be on podcast apps too. But but I did see this recently, and I thought it was important. Well, I thought it was important for the points that we're going to be making tonight. So I was watching an episode of the My Expert Opinion podcast on YouTube with Math Hoffa. Right? Now, Math Hoffa had Robert Kennedy Jr. on his show. Okay? Now, RFK Jr., as we know, was running for president. He was a fringe candidate from the very motherfucking beginning. He had a snowball's chance hell of winning from the very motherfucking beginning. And he said some wild and crazy shit. And no one was ever so much so that his own fucking family, the Kennedy family, was out here like, nah, bruh, you need to just
shut up. Shut the fuck up. Damn. Enough. Boy, I've been sick to my fucking stomach watching you imbeciles type things. Stop typing. You niggas are stupid.
His family further went on to say,
you need to shut the fuck up when grown folks is talking.
This is how the Kennedy family was treating RFK Jr. Okay. Now, Matt Hoffa brought on RFK Jr. onto his podcast. Now, we all know at this point, RFK Jr. has endorsed Donald Trump to be president of the United States.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. No wonder you get D's and everything.
Now, for those of you who may be familiar with the My Expert Opinion podcast, we know, apparently, that Matt Hoffa is a goddamn Trump supporter.
Nigga.
Yeah, man. He's a goddamn Trump supporter. Now, that is not to say that everybody on the show is a Trump supporter, because I believe his co-host, Mecca, is not a Trump supporter. Okay? But Matt Hoffa had RFK Jr. on their podcast, YouTube show that they do. I don't know if it's really a podcast. I'm not subscribed. I got to search these niggas up on a podcast app to see if it's really a podcast. However, he had RFK Jr. on there, and Mecca was talking about how Trump is a racist. Okay? How Trump is a racist. And I'm going to play a bit of this because this also goes into why I think what Barack Obama was saying was needed, but also, yeah, the numbers might not necessarily be like grand numbers, but like we all know these niggas. We all know these niggas who think that they're being smart while they're while at the same, they think they're being smart while at the same time they're ignoring all of the racism that is being thrown their way. Okay? So I'm going to pull this up so you guys can see right on with your man Spann. Hold on just a second while I do this here. You guys are going to see this. And, okay, so here we go. Check this out, you guys.
Just a special. Your man's who you're next to. And when I pull up.
He has a very bad habit of putting his very bad music at the front of the videos, but I ain't mad. You know, you're just going to skip in front of that shit.
It's hot for trapper turn smack rapper. Only smack rapper that you know is smack rapper.
Established 1980.
If y'all got questions and y'all want to ask.
Hold on. He said established 1980, which means this nigga is old enough to motherfucking know better. Old enough to know better. I'm also established 1980. We both 44. Nigga, you should know better.
Let him fly.
Just ask the question.
Like Mac, you believe he's a racist. You have someone who's been around him who knows all this stuff better than we do.
His experience.
Why don't you ask him about it?
That's where you went wrong. He knows this stuff better than we do. His experience won't convince me that Trump is not a racist. That won't happen.
I'm confused as what did what.
Hey, like real talk though. Shout out to somebody like Mecca who is surrounded by niggas who don't know shit and has to be on the microphone and be on camera with niggas who don't know shit. I know this nigga gets a headache all the time. I know he has a headache all the time.
I'm confused at what brought you to that decision.
What brought me? Racists love him.
What does that have to
has everything to do.
So let me get this straight. If child molesters just decided that you were their champion, does that mean that
child molesters aren't running for president?
I'm confused about
child molesters aren't running for president. He is.
You said racist.
You did that last time.
Where are the racists that you hang with that love him all of a sudden?
No, I watched them at his rallies. Let
me answer. You know who's at these rallies?
I watched them at his rallies.
You can see who's
I see the flag they're waving.
Now listen, there's a bunch of niggas who want to pretend like the racism is a figment of everybody's fucking imagination. It's a figment of everybody's imagination because they can't deal with the realization of the fact that the dude that they support is actually a racist, doesn't give a fuck about them. So they got to make you feel like you crazy. They gaslighting the fuck out of everybody else. They got to make you feel like you crazy because you see it. And you not willing to like be cool with it. They want to make you feel like you a goddamn fool because you see it. Math is one of those folks. And there's a lot of niggas in the hood who are one of those folks too.
at his rallies.
Well, I want to say this because because you can't identify it like that, because when it comes to racism, you have overt racism and you have covert racism.
Okay, so I don't know who this nigga here is. Sorry to whoever this guy here is. I don't know who this nigga is. However, he think he about to say some deep shit. He really does. But he's saying some of the most surface level shit. And you can tell these niggas don't know what the fuck they talking about. You can just tell. I'm sorry. I had to stop, but yeah. He think he about to say some deep shit, but it's not. It's not deep at all.
I believe in the Democratic Party, they not as overt as the people who you describing at the Trump rally.
Okay.
Right? Mm-hmm. So we can't go by racism because you can't really you can't really identify.
You don't want to go by racism, and I respect that. And I get that.
What Biden did with the crime bill was racist.
I don't respect that. He said he respects it. I don't respect it. Even with his example of the crime bill in 1994, we saw a lot of people from the Bernie Sanders campaign back in 2016 talking this same shit, right, about Hillary Clinton. Now, as someone who's old enough to remember what was going on back in 2016, but I don't even 2016, back in 1994, 95, 96, 97, because I was fucking there. I remember when I was seeing the community leaders in Detroit, because I was living in Detroit at the time, back in 95, 96, 97. I moved back to Chicago in 97. I'm old enough to remember when they would call it for, hey, something gotta be done about this. I remember when the Congressional Black Caucus was endorsing the passage of the 1994 crime bill. I remember that. And the reason why they were endorsing the passage of the of the 1994 crime bill was because, hey man, it was bad. It was fucking bad in the hood, bro. It was bad. You had motherfuckers, listen, you had motherfuckers who used to be able to like just, you know, not lock their doors to like having bars on their windows and doors. You had people who were like, yo, their family members were fucking not even breaking in because they had keys, nigga. They were family, so it wasn't really tripping. But nigga, why is my VCR missing? How the fuck did the TV just like disappear? Because people were out here on that shit, stealing their relatives' televisions, VCRs, video games, and whatever else, so that they can get to their next high. I remember that time, bro. I was there at that time, bro. So, like, people try to retroactively act as though they don't remember what the fuck that time was. Oh, it was racist for Joe Biden to, like, yo, he presented the crime bill. Joe Biden was not fucking alone. That bill does not pass just because of Joe Biden. It doesn't. It does not. Some of your favorite fucking Congress people and senators also passed that legislation. Also, because Joe Biden was one vote, that doesn't mean that he this goes back into the civics class, right? Joe Biden was but one vote and 100 votes in the Senate. Joe Biden was with one vote. And like, think about this for a second. It has to go through the Senate. It has to go through the House of Representatives. The House of Representatives has 435 motherfucking Congress people that it has to go through. So I need y'all to understand that Joe Biden, although he was supportive of that bill, was not the only reason why that fucking bill passed. And the bill passed bipartisanly, Republican and Democrat. And although it was a Democrat who was the president of the United States, Bill Clinton at the time, listen, everybody was asking for something to be done when it came to that 1994 crime bill. Stop deluding yourself into thinking that that's not what the fuck it was, because it's exactly what the fuck it was. Right? People like this dude on this bar in his barbershop, and also some of the niggas that you listen to on some of these other podcasts, and also some of the niggas that you listen to on the block, don't fucking know this because they was failing those goddamn civics classes. They don't fucking know this because they were failing those fucking civics classes. That's his problem.
I see, and that's Biden's not running for president.
And I hate that Mecca didn't know this too. I do. I hate that Mecca didn't also break this down to the point where it no longer needed to be broke. He's talking to a bunch of niggas who don't know shit. And yeah.
I don't want to talk about what Biden did.
It's his party. It's his party.
Okay. And this is
political parties aside. At the end of the day, right?
So you could be the vice president of someone who does something racist.
She can't write the policies that you're talking about.
If you have people at your rallies that's racist, that makes you racist. You could be the vice president and not be racist if you're hanging with a how does that make sense?
I don't think he's racist, and he's kicking it with Trump. And
I don't necessarily know whether or not Robert Kennedy Jr. is racist. He's aligned himself with them. And I think Robert Kennedy Jr. is in a position to know better, and he still made this choice. So I don't give him a pass. I know that y'all have a relationship with this dude or whatever else. I don't give him a pass. I believe he knows better. He's made his choice because he's going to be okay whether Donald Trump is president, whether Kamala Harris is president. Robert Kennedy Jr. is going to be okay. The rest of us are going to have to deal with the ramifications of what this election is going to be. RFK Jr. is going to be all right. That's just the bottom line for me.
I would never accuse him of being racist because I don't believe he is one.
Okay.
See how easy that works? See, that's how that goes.
That's not how that goes.
It is how it goes.
What you said earlier is not how that goes.
It is how it goes.
No,
I believe that if racists somehow, if the racist organizations in this country, including a couple of new ones that popped up on your watch, and somehow they're all galvanized and they all love you to death, then you're saying something specifically to them that they're hearing.
Hold on, wait.
Can I finish the sentence?
Yeah.
You're saying something specifically that they're hearing, that they're keying in on, that I may not hear. That him is a non-racist. Let me finish.
What is this?
That him is a non-hit.
That you believe is being heard.
You've never heard the phrase racist dog whistle? You've never heard that?
See, he said.
Let him answer. Like if we gonna really dance this dance, you gotta let the sentences come all the way out. I'm not stopping anybody from talking.
But you have to understand everything that you're saying is hypothetical. No, hold on, no math.
No, there's nothing.
This motherfucker really said on a television, on YouTube, on a microphone, on a platform, where he gets probably hundreds of thousands of videos, probably hundreds of thousands of views per video. I'm not sure how many downloads. Again, I don't know if this is really a podcast because these niggas don't know what podcasts really are. But he's saying this as like, this is new information. He is totally fucking clueless. This dude is on a YouTube show where he gets hundreds of thousands of views per video. He does not fucking know what a racist dog whistle is. He thinks that everything that this dude Mecca is saying is hypothetical. Nigga, what is wrong with you? If you're gonna, I would say this. If you're gonna bring yourself into this space, I really need for niggas who are gonna step into this space to actually know what the fuck it is you're talking about before you even bring yourself into the space. I would never go into a battle rap video and not know what the fuck I'm talking about, right? Because Math Hop is like, he comes from battle rap. I would never go into a battle rap debate because battle rap has never been my thing. I would never argue with this nigga about battle rap because that's not my shit. He's bringing himself into the political realm and does not know what the fuck he's talking about. No fucking clue. None of it. Doesn't know. Now, I say that to say, and I'm bringing this back into the whole thing we were talking about with Roland Martin. Because Roland Martin tends to believe that Barack Obama was out of line for saying some of the things that he was saying. However, Math Hoffa speaks to hundreds of thousands of dudes. It might not always be all dudes who are listening to him, but he speaks to a large audience. And this is what they're getting from him. So I don't necessarily disagree with Barack Obama saying, like, yo, man, like, you know, coming at brothers in the way in which he came at us, because these are some of the messages that are being sent out to a lot of brothers on a daily basis. So although you're looking at the political numbers and shit, Roland, and I love Roland Martin most times, on this one, I gotta disagree because of shit like this.
Been hypothetical about the Confederate flag.
I see racist there, so I believe that he's racist. Oh, you ever heard of the racist dog whistle? None of this stuff is stuff that I can look at and be like, whoa,
Matt,
look at this racism.
That's not hypothetical.
Look, Matt,
okay, you know what? I'll fix it all right now. You ready? I don't think he's racist. I believe racists think he's racist. How's that for you?
I mean, that's what you said. But let me ask you a question.
That make you feel better?
Let me ask you a question, Mac.
Ask me a question.
I believe racists think you're racist.
Let me
you know they don't, but you know they don't.
Let me ask
you know they don't. See, you can't say that with a straight face.
Let me ask you a question.
When I'm talking, I'm absolutely straight face. I'm listening. I'm listening.
Bobby got this initiative called Make America Healthy Again, right? Mm-hmm. So you have different types of racism. You have environmental racism, which...
Here's a nigga who think he's talking on some deep shit. Again, he don't know shit. He don't know shit, bro.
Bobby spoke
We talked about that last time he was here.
Right. We have racism when it comes to our food, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Right? And he's saying that Trump wants to address those issues.
You ready for my answer? Is that the question?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't believe Trump.
Right.
Cool? Like, we can keep dancing this dance back and forth. I don't believe him.
Why
I don't believe the man who ran Trump University and conned a bunch of people out of money, that now all of a sudden he's telling the truth. I don't believe him. It's just that simple. I believe his intentions are exactly what they say they are. When he walked in here last time, I believed it. When he walked out of here, I believed it. Sitting here right now, I think he believes he's doing the right thing. You dig? I think he thinks he's doing the right thing. I don't think he has malicious intent. But I believe he's aligned himself with somebody who is out for themselves and who is not being 100% honest with him. That's what I believe. Now, does that make him a bad person? No. Does that make him a racist? No. Does that make the Democratic Party a bunch of angels with halos? Fuck no. Well, you've been cursing. Fuck no. Fuck no, I don't think that. Like, I don't understand this idea that because I think Kamala will do a better job, that somehow I think she's perfect, or there's nothing to fix on that side. I don't agree with all the stuff that she says.
And this is why I started this saying personal feelings.
You're not gonna let me. No, it's not personal feelings. My ass. The policies. I don't agree with all of her policies.
None of the things that you're saying is supported by a fact, an incident, a date.
And this is how we know. This is how we know that this nigga Math don't pay attention to shit. Right? We don't know. This is how we know he don't pay attention to shit. So, like, this sort of messaging goes out to a lot of brothers on social media, on like, we talk about this shit in the barbershops. We talk about this shit at the work site. We talk about this shit on podcast or whatever else. Right? the fact that Mecca is the only black man in this barbershop, right, who was actually talking about the racism and the misinformation and disinformation going on with the Trump campaign, and he has to argue with other black men in the barbershop about the misinformation and disinformation concerning Kamala Harris in the barbershop, is why, like, when I see Roland Martin saying, well, that was the wrong message and tone that Barack Obama took at that campaign stop. Nah, man, because I'm seeing this on the ground too. You can point to numbers. We can all point to numbers, but there's quite a few brothers who are being misled, and we ignore these niggas to our peril. I know some personally. I've had to disassociate myself from some personally because of this level of misinformation and disinformation. So this is why I disagree with somebody like a Roland Martin on issues like this right here, right? But also, because this isn't it. This is not it, right? So one of the things that like black people like to talk about. I'm sorry, not black people. One of the things that Trump supporters like to talk about is the fact that Donald Trump supposedly saved HBCUs. Now, we know that Donald Trump only really wanted to give HBCUs money because he saw it as an opportunity to say he did something for black folks. And we also know that if it hadn't been for Congresswoman Alma Adams, that he would not have funded black HBCUs at all. He actually presented a budget that zeroed out funding for HBCUs entirely, right? And he when he had that picture of the HBCU presidents in the Oval Office and everything else, one of the things he's been riding on that for the last 5 years. I funded HBCUs, right? How often do we hear, and this I will fault the Biden administration about this. How often do we hear that the Biden administration has gave over $16 billion with a B billion dollars to HBCUs since he's been president? We get the story here. This comes out of USA Today. The Biden administration recently announced that it has invested a record $16 billion in historically black colleges and universities over the past 3 years. The administration announced that the record investment on Thursday ahead of Biden's commencement speech on Sunday at Morehouse College, one of the country's most revered African-American institutions. These historic funding levels demonstrate the administration's ongoing commitment to HBCUs, which serve as an engine for upward economic mobility in our country, the White House said in a news release. USA Today looked at how that money has been spent and how the record investment compares to predominantly white universities. Here's what we found. Nearly $4 million invested in HBCUs through the American Rescue Plan and other COVID relief legislation. $2.6 billion invested from the Department of Education to build institutional capacity at HBCUs, according to the Biden administration. These efforts support the growth and sustainability of HBCU degree programs, increase and enhance human, technological, and physical infrastructure for research, strengthen positioning to secure direct partnership opportunities, and create sustainable fund development. Over $1.6 billion invested through federal grants, operative cooperative agreements and other competitive funding opportunities, almost $950 million to support HBCUs in growing research capacity and related infrastructure, nearly $719 million in grant funding to expand STEM academic capacity and educational programs, over $150 million in federal contracting opportunities awarded to HBCUs, including for research and expansion of STEM education programs at the Department of Health and Human Services, Department of Transportation, the Department of Energy, and the U.S. Agency for International Development. $1.6 billion in capital finance debt relief for 45 public and private HBCUs. Over $2.4 million in Project SERVE funds to support HBCUs affected by more than a dozen bomb threats in 2022. Now, why the fuck would an HBCU be dealing with a bomb threat in 2022? Don't worry, I'll fucking wait. $2.8 billion in need-based grants and other federal programs, including Pell Grants, Federal Work Study, and Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grants, the FSEOG. I remember those. I could never get those motherfuckers when I was in school. And the nearly $1.3 billion to support veterans attending HBCUs through the GI Bill and other college, graduate school, and training programs. So, as much as the Trump administration would like to tell everybody, I saved HBCUs, not really, nigga, because you didn't want to fund them to begin with. And anybody who's ever really been paying attention knows that. We fucking know that. As an HBCU alumni, I fucking know that. Right? So, yeah, man. Like, it is real wild. But also, the thing that I think is very, very interesting is that Donald Trump likes to tell us that the economy is shit. Like, the economy is so bad. It's so bad since he's not president anymore. And yet and still, Donald Trump wants to, you want to sell us like $100,000 watches and shit, my nigga? Like, them watches might not even look like what the fuck they look like on a website, my nigga. Like, I might not even get the motherfucking watch, but I think I'm gonna get the watch, my nigga. Like, this is what y'all are promoting, right? Not only the watches, this nigga's out here selling motherfucking coins, my nigga. Like coins. I think Donald Trump knows his face will never go on any motherfucking currency, so the coins are like his way of like, hey, at least I got something, my face on something, right? Donald Trump is really out here fleecing his motherfucking his supporters, fleecing their asses. And yet we act as though this race should be as close as it is. It should not be. It should not be as close as it is. It really shouldn't be. Donald Trump is out here selling Bibles. He's selling Bibles for $60 a pop. Those Bibles are made in China. He's buying those Bibles from China at $5 a piece. You bought a $5 Bible for $60. Trying to be patriotic, and they don't even make the motherfuckers here. If nothing else, Donald Trump knows a sucker when he sees one. And if nothing else, Donald Trump, I feel as though if Donald Trump loses this election, if he loses this election the way he should, Donald Trump has the same attitude that Denzel Washington had when he left those motherfucking Oscars.
I'm leaving here with something. You know what I mean? I'm from around the way. I'm leaving with something.
He leaving with something. Whether that be the motherfucking presidency or your motherfucking money in his pocket, Donald Trump is leaving here with something. And meanwhile, some of y'all are just, cool with that. I'm not, but some of y'all. And some of y'all are just...
niggas.
Because I'm not. I'm not fucking with this nigga, man. So, before we get out of here, this is one last thing I want to talk about. This is one last thing, man. Donald Trump was recently here in Detroit. And he had the audacity to bring his ass to Detroit to talk shit about Detroit while he was in Detroit. And that's just...
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. No wonder you get D's and everything.
Clearly, this motherfucker didn't really pass all of his classes. Somebody was probably taking those classes for Donald Trump. But Donald Trump was in Detroit. He spoke to the Detroit Economic Club while he was here. And I just wonder, I got this question. Matter of fact, I'll pose this question after we listen to what the fuck Donald Trump had to say. Check this out, guys. Well, let me pull this up so you guys can watch right along with your mans. Check this out, y'all. Let's see what this motherfucker had to say.
Now to the 2024 presidential race, and former President Donald Trump spending his afternoon speaking to the Detroit Economic Club. With less than a month until the election, candidates in town every week vying for the Michigan vote. 7 News Detroit reporter Sarah Michaels attended the event at the Motor City Casino Hotel today. She joins us from Detroit with Trump's promise for the Michigan auto industry and reaction from those in attendance.
The number one issue for many voters this election cycle is the economy. And that's the majority of what former President Donald Trump spoke about here in Detroit on Thursday.
You want to know the truth? It'll be like Detroit. Our whole country will end up being like Detroit if she's your president.
Former President Donald Trump talking to members of the Detroit Economic Club Thursday at the Motor City Casino Hotel's Soundboard Theater.
The fact is that the Federal Reserve brought the interest rates down a little too quickly. It was too big a cut, and everyone knows that was a political maneuver that they tried to do before the election, but they did the wrong thing.
He spoke primarily about the economy and Michigan's auto industry, saying that saving Michigan's auto industry will be a part of his legacy, and that he is the only reason auto manufacturing in Michigan is still alive.
So I just want to say, Michigan, you're welcome. And I'm announcing today that upon taking office, I will formally notify Mexico and Canada of my intention to invoke the 6-year renegotiation provisions of the USMCA that I put in.
He also spoke at length about his plans to impose tariffs on all imports. Promises met with mixed reaction by those in attendance.
He does what he says he's going to do. The last time he was elected, he did everything he said he was going to do about deregulation, about lower taxes, stronger military. He's very impressive, very sincere.
I really wish they would have asked that lady, do you actually live in the city of Detroit? Right? There's a lot of what we're gonna get into it. But they should have asked that lady, do you live in Detroit?
What did you think of the former president's economic promises today?
To me, it's against what I'm teaching to my students in international trade. The idea that we are going to impose tariff and that's going to solve our problems is very, very simplistic. Tariff is going to solve the problem. No, it won't happen.
And I've been reading about Detroit for so many years that it's coming around, and never really got there. Everybody tries so hard. But if you make the auto industry bigger, better, stronger, you don't have to worry about Detroit.
Now, Governor Tim Walz will be in Macomb County on Friday, and we'll bring you that coverage. In Detroit, Sarah Michaels, 7 News Detroit.
All right. Now, the reason why I would ask that lady who was talking about, oh, he does whatever he says he's going to do, yada, yada, yada. I don't know if they asked her what she thought about his comments about Detroit, but I will say this. There are a bunch of people who don't live in the city of Detroit, who live around the city of Detroit, who would look at what Donald Trump said and not have a problem with what he said at all, right? And a lot of those folks live in Macomb County, right outside of Detroit. People like that live in like Warren and places like that, right? Who don't live in the city, live in close proximity to the city, but don't have any love for the place, right? Those are the people who tend to vote for Donald Trump. Macomb County would probably go Trump in this election. Wouldn't surprise me at all, right? But also, it's not just them. It's not just them. There are some people who live in the city, some of them who look like us, who aren't happy with the development that is happening in downtown, that is happening in Midtown, that is happening in the University District, that is happening in Corktown. They feel as though like the development and the upward mobility that is happening in the city doesn't include them. And also they're being priced out of the city, right? So you got those folks who, despite everything that's going on with the city that is positive, they don't feel as though they are being included in the positivity of the growth that is Detroit, right? But here's the rub, is that when we know that Donald Trump is talking about Detroit, we know that Donald Trump doesn't care about Detroit because, for one, Donald Trump considers Detroit a black city. Donald Trump, I mean, and he's not wrong. Detroit is overwhelmingly a black city. At one point, it was the blackest big city in the nation. I believe Memphis has kind of taken over that distinction over the course of the last census, right? But at one point, Detroit was the largest black city in the nation. And Donald Trump considers all of the black cities in the swing states corrupt, right? Donald Trump lost Wisconsin largely because of the turnout that happened in Milwaukee. Donald Trump lost Michigan largely because of the turnout that happened in Detroit. Donald Trump lost Pennsylvania largely because of the black turnout that happened in Philadelphia. Donald Trump lost Atlanta largely because of the black turnout that happened in Georgia, but he lost it because of the large turnout that happened in Atlanta. Like, all of the cities that have a large black population, Donald Trump considers them corrupt. So when Donald Trump says, they're like, yo, if Kamala Harris wins, Kamala Harris will have the rest of America looking like Detroit. What are you talking about exactly? Because Detroit is on a rebound. Detroit is coming back. Detroit is also a largely minority city. What the fuck are you talking about? What the fuck are you talking about? Right? So I need people to understand. I need people to understand that when this dude is out here talking shit about largely black states, I'm sorry, not states, but cities, he does not have black people in mind. Matt Hoffa was talking about, some black examples of this nigga being racist. Let's not go back. Let's go back to Donald Trump not renting his apartments to black people in New York City. Let's go back to Donald Trump talking about how the Central Park Five deserved the death penalty for some shit they didn't even fucking do. And then when he was advised on the fact that, hey, they were not actually guilty of the crime that you said they should be put to death for, this motherfucker refuses to apologize for that. Let's not talk about his racist plot against Barack Obama to say that, hey, he wasn't born here in America And I got investigators in Hawaii, and y'all won't believe what the fuck they find it. Hey, man, it's been over 15 years. Has any fucking body ever found the results of Donald Trump's investigation of Barack Obama in Hawaii? Anybody? Any fucking body? I need for us to be a bit more serious about exactly what is happening in this election. There's so much misinformation, disinformation, and not only that, I need y'all to think about the fact that even when we're thinking about like not even on some like racial shit, just on the political tip, like how often like people have memory hold. They have they have totally memory hold. 2020, like COVID didn't fucking happen. Like people talk about, hey, gas prices were cheaper back in 2020 and Trump was president. Yeah, nigga, that's because we was all in the house. We was all locked up in the house. We ain't had nowhere to go. Wasn't nobody on the roads. We was all trying to keep from being sick, nigga. We was all trying to keep from catching that shit. Some of us lost very important members of our fucking families, bro. In that time. I lost my grandmother in that time. My granny was the rock of the family. My granny deserved a hell of a Granny deserved a hell of a lot more than she got on her send-off. And we couldn't give that to her because of COVID. I lost many of my mentors. Mrs. Hawkins from Olive Harvey Middle College, principal of Olive Harvey Middle College. Mr. J. Roy Jones, one of my favorite teachers from Olive Harvey Middle College. Lost him during that time. We lost some very important people because of the mismanagement of the COVID pandemic, because we had this son of a bitch as the president of the United States during the time. And I know a lot of people, for whatever fucking reason, are acting as though I was better off at the time. No, the fuck you wasn't. You weren't. Even with stimulus check, you weren't. $1,200 ain't no fucking money, man. It's not no fucking money. And even that money came from the democratically controlled House of Representatives. The power of the purse rests in the House of Representatives. So even while you're talking about FEMA not giving you X amount of dollars, guess who's in control of the House of Representatives right now? Don't worry, I'll wait. Don't worry, I'll fucking wait. We don't have time for this. I've been away from this mic for a long time. This shit has been weighing heavy on me for a long time. I need for us to be mindful going forward that if you are someone who listens to me, or if you know someone who can be helped by this message, forward this shit to them. There's way too much misinformation and disinformation permeating not only our social media streets, but our mainstream media streets as well. And When America has a cold, Black America has the flu. When it comes to misinformation and disinformation, that adage still holds true. So I would hope that going forward, we as a people take heed to the bullshit that is coming forth and the bullshit going forward. And I'm going to leave you guys with one last thing. Because I should have played this earlier. Oh, I'm sorry. There's a couple things. Because shout out to the Kamala Harris campaign for actually addressing this bullshit that Trump had going on. But there's a couple things that I want to leave you guys with. We're gonna start off here though with this ad from the Kamala Harris campaign. So let me do this here so you guys can watch right along with your mans. And hold on just a second here.
They said we were dead.
Detroit waving the white flag, the city filing for bankruptcy.
That our best days were behind us. That living here is like
living in hell.
But you know what we said? We said, F that. We rebuilt ourselves. We looked out for each other, got our hands dirty, and put in the hard work. And this guy, he don't know anything about that. We are a city of winners, of up-and-comers, of builders, the Motor City. Bigger and better. Here, we believe in freedom. We don't bow down to nobody, and we never will. And so what Donald Trump doesn't understand, or care to learn, is that when he said,
our whole country will end up being like Detroit if she's your president,
that he should be so goddamn lucky.
I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message.
Absolutely, man. But also, let me pull that down, because that's not it. I need people to understand that as much as they were like on Biden's ass about not making sense in that debate, and as much as they were on Biden's ass about how old he was, and they're not being sure about whether or not he can make it through the next 4 years, I need y'all to take a look at this. And think about this going forward. Hold on just a second. Let me pull this up so you guys can watch right along with your mans. Hold on just a second. Boom. All right. And
so let's look.
Let me pull it up. I got a timestamp here. So check this out. It's right about here. Check this out, y'all.
Sort of simple word, but it sort of means like everything you eat. The stomach is speaking. It always does. And I have more complaints about that bacon and things going up, double, triple, quadruple. They built a very big plant. Many countries, they do that. And then all of a sudden you hear that they're leaving Milwaukee or they're leaving wherever they may be located. It's very sad to see it. And it's so simple. I mean, you know. This isn't like Elon with his rocket ships that land within 12 inches on the moon where they wanted to land. Or he gets the engines back. That was the first I realized. I said, who the hell did that? I saw engines about 3-4 years ago. These things were coming, cylinders, no wings, no nothing. And they're coming down very slowly, landing on a raft in the middle of the ocean someplace with a circle. Boom. Reminded me of the Biden circles that he used to have, right? He'd have 8 circles and he couldn't fill them up. But then I heard he beat us with the popular vote. I don't know. Couldn't fill up the 8 circles. I always loved those circles. They were so beautiful. They were so beautiful to look at. In fact, the person that did them, that was the best thing about the level of that circle was great. But they couldn't get people, so they used to have the press stand in those circles because they couldn't get the people. Then I heard we lost. Oh, we lost. No, we're never going to let that happen again. But we've been abused by other countries.
I mean,
It was at this moment where I was asking motherfuckers, what the fuck was he talking about? What the fuck was he talking about, bro? What the fuck was he even talking about? He doesn't make sense. He's never made sense. What the fuck are we talking about? Why is this shit so close? It shouldn't be. It should not fucking be, man. But it is. And it is because of the misinformation and disinformation that permeates not only the mainstream media but also our social media as well. And so while I respect folks like Roland Martin when he's mad at Barack Obama, and as Barack Obama is telling brothers like, hey man, we can't fall for the bullshit, yada yada yada, misogyny and all this other shit, is I disagree, man. I fucking agree. And the evidence is like it's all over the place. So, personally, I'm an absentee voter. I voted already. My shit's in the mail already. I would hope that going forward, because the election, this is election season now. We're in the last 30 days. I need y'all to make the right choice. I really do. I really need y'all to make the right choice. And hopefully y'all do. Hopefully y'all do. That's the end all and be all of it, right? That's the end all and be all of it. But of course, it's time for me to get on up out of here. I've been talking for quite some time, right? But of course, before we get up out of here, I got to remind you guys how to get in touch with us over here at the Mr. Spann Official Podcast and let your voices be heard, man. Go ahead and hit up that hotline at area code 313-288-0485. That's area code 313-288-0485. Leave those voicemail messages. Those messages will get played here and responded to here live on the show, man. So I really appreciate everybody who does that. The phone number is 313-288-0485. Leave those voicemail messages for real, man. Real talk. Also, leave us an email at feedback@thespannreport.com. That's feedback@thespannreport.com. Go ahead, leave us those emails, and of course, those emails will get read here and reply to here live as well. Follow me on Threads and Instagram. My name on both of those platforms is Mr._Spann. So go ahead and follow me there. Chop it up with your man Spann throughout the week. I'm also on Blue Sky. I think it's MrSpann.bluesky.com. So I forgot what the fuck they protocol is, but I'm on there too. So if you want to follow me there, you can also follow me there. Also on the YouTube, go to the Spann Report on YouTube. You can subscribe to the Spann Report on YouTube. You can like the videos on YouTube. You can comment on the videos on YouTube, and we appreciate you doing all of that shit. Real talk, man. We really appreciate everybody who does that. All right. Also, leave us a 5-star review on iTunes and on Stitcher Radio. Those 5-star reviews are the ones that get right here live on the show. We really appreciate everybody who does that. Doesn't cost you a dime, man. Just a couple minutes of your time to let everybody know why you're rocking with us over here at the Mr. Spann Official Podcast and the Spann Report Official Podcast in its entirety. And also, man, if you want to copy yourself some merch, go to our store at TeePublic, man. We have a store on TeePublic. It's teepublic.com/the Spann Report. Go ahead and copy yourself some merch, man. Get yourself a t-shirt. Get yourself a hoodie. Get yourself a sweater. Get yourself a coffee mug. Get yourself a mouse pad. Whatever it is that you get, we really do appreciate it for you supporting us in that way, man. Real talk. But I am about to get on the out of here. I appreciate you guys for rocking with your boy Spann here. And I will talk to you guys again soon. But until next time, fam, peace.